The stars were quiet but not peaceful. Something was moving through them, fast, cold, and powerful. The Virexian ascendancy had spent centuries conquering world after world. They did not ask for surrender. They gave orders. And if a planet resisted, it burned. They had technology far beyond anything humans had ever dreamed of. Their ships moved like shadows, silent and deadly. Their weapons turned cities into dust in seconds. No one stood against them. No one ever had to. But deep in a corner of space, on a blue planet called Earth, a small warship was preparing for launch. Its name was the USS Wolverine I, and it wasn't the biggest ship. It wasn't the fastest or the strongest either. But it was new. Built with the latest tech, it was meant for testing, for training, for learning. It was never meant to fight a war. Commander Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge looking out at the stars. He was a tall man, quiet most of the time, but when he spoke, people listened. Beside him was Lieutenant Karen Moore, the tactical officer. She was sharp, quick with numbers, and faster with ideas. In engineering, Chief Paul Brooks checked every system twice. He didn't trust machines unless he had touched them himself. And down in communications, Ensign Lisa Carter sat with her headphones on, listening to the silence between stars. Their mission was simple: go to the edge of human space, check on a missing colony, and report back. What they found was worse than anyone expected. The colony was gone, nothing left but broken ground and scorched stone. Satellites showed massive explosions, but no sign of survivors. And then came the signal. Not from the colony, but from above it. A huge alien ship floated in orbit, dark and silent. It looked like it was made of smoke and steel. No flags, no call signs, no words, just waiting. Hayes didn't move. He watched it through the view screen, his hands tight around the rail. "They're scanning us," Karen said. "Shields up, weapons ready," Hayes ordered. The crew moved fast. The Wolverine had never fired in anger before. Now it might have to. Then the voice came. Not friendly, not loud. Just sure. "You will leave this system." Hayes looked at Karen. She nodded. He took a breath. "No," he said. And that one word changed everything. The silence after Hayes's reply lasted only a few seconds, but it felt longer. Then the alien ship moved, fast, like a shadow shifting in the dark. "They're locking weapons," Karen shouted. "Evasive maneuvers," Hayes ordered, his voice calm but firm. The USS Wolverine twisted in space, engines roaring as it dove away from the enemy's line of fire. Red beams of energy sliced through the empty space where they had been just moments ago. "Shields holding," Paul called from engineering. "Return fire," Hayes said. Twin bursts of plasma roared from the Wolverine's forward cannons. One missed, but the second struck the alien ship near its rear thrusters. For the first time, the enemy staggered. "They didn't expect that," Karen said with a grin. "They won't make the same mistake twice," Hayes replied. He was right. The alien ship turned sharply and fired again. This time, the blast hit the Wolverine's side. Alarms blared. Lights flickered. "Shield strength at 70%, Karen reported. "We can't take many more hits like that," Paul warned. Hayes looked at the screen. The alien ship was bigger, stronger, and faster. If they tried to run, it would catch them. If they stood and fought, they would lose. He needed another way. "Paul, can you boost power to the engines?" "I can try," Paul said. "Do it. Lisa, send out a distress signal on all human channels." "Sir, if we do that, the enemy might pick it up too," she said. "Let them hear it," Hayes said. "If we go down, the whole galaxy will know what happened here." Lisa nodded and sent the message. Then Paul rerouted power from non-essential systems to the engines. "Boosting speed now," he said. The Wolverine surged forward, slipping behind a nearby moon. The alien ship followed, but not as fast. "Now," Hayes said, "we show them humans don't back down." He aimed the ship toward a field of floating debris left from the destroyed colony. The alien pilot hesitated, not wanting to fly into danger. Hayes didn't hesitate. The Wolverine shot through the wreckage, dodging broken metal and stone. The alien ship tried to follow. but miscalculated. A large chunk of debris slammed into its hull. "Gotcha," Karen whispered. "Fire everything we've got," Hayes said. The Wolverine spun around and unleashed a full broadside. The alien ship took direct hits to its main systems. Sparks flew from its outer shell. Then with a final burst it broke apart. Silence filled the bridge. They had done it. A human warship had beaten an enemy that had never been beaten before. But Hayes knew this was only the beginning. "Prepare for warp," he said. "We need to report back, and we need to get ready. Because somewhere out there, more of them were coming, and next time, they wouldn't be surprised." News of the Wolverine's victory spread fast across human space. At first, people didn't believe it. A single warship had beaten an alien that had crushed entire planets. It sounded like a dream, but the data was real. The enemy had been hurt, and they had not expected it. Commander Hayes knew they wouldn't stay surprised for long. Back on Earth, military leaders argued about what to do next. Some wanted to pull back, to hide. Others wanted to fight. Hayes did not wait for their decision. He had already made his own. The Wolverine would not run. From the edge of known space to the outer colonies, the ship moved like a ghost. It struck at enemy outposts, then vanished before help could arrive. Supply lines were cut. Patrols disappeared. And always, after each attack, a message was left behind. Humans do not bow. Lieutenant Karen Moore came up with most of the plans. She studied enemy patterns, found weak spots, and turned them into chances to strike. Paul Brooks kept the ship running, often fixing things faster than anyone thought possible. Lisa Carter listened to enemy comms, learning their codes, their language, their fears. And slowly, something changed. Other humans started to copy the Wolverine. Small ships, old ships, even civilian freighters began to resist. They didn't have big weapons or fancy tech, but they had courage. And they had hope. On captured worlds, slaves whispered the name Wolverine like a prayer. Some said it was a myth, others said it was a fleet. But all agreed on one thing: the aliens were not unstoppable anymore. One night near the ruins of a burned-out colony, the Wolverine picked up a strange signal. It wasn't from the enemy. It was a voice, weak, broken, but clear. If you are who they say you are, if you really fight them, we want to help. Hayes looked at Karen. She nodded. They followed the signal to a hidden base beneath the surface of a dead moon. There, they found survivors, humans and aliens alike. Former prisoners, escaped workers, people the Virexians had left for dead. They had nothing but willpower and anger. Hayes offered them a choice. "You can stay here and hide," he said, "or you can come with us." Not one person stayed behind. The Wolverine was no longer just a warship. It was a home, a symbol, a spark. And sparks can start fires, fires that burn down even the strongest empires. As the ship left the moon, its new crew stood ready. The enemy would come for them, harder, faster, angrier. But this time, the Wolverine would not be alone. The name Wolverine was no longer a secret. It was spoken across the stars, not just by humans but by those who had suffered under the Virexian rule. On broken worlds and dark moons, people whispered it like a promise. Hope had returned, but the Virexians heard it too. They were not used to names being feared. They were the ones who inspired fear. And now, a single human ship had become more than a threat. It had become a symbol. The Empire responded the way it always did, with overwhelming force. A massive warship, the Zorath Prime Aur, was sent to hunt the Wolverine. It was faster, stronger, and filled with soldiers ready to end the human threat once and for all. The Zorath Prime did not just carry weapons, it carried orders. Find the Wolverine, destroy it, make an example of its crew. But the Wolverine was already moving. Commander Hayes had learned something from every battle. He knew he could not win in a straight fight, so he would not give them one. Lieutenant Karen Moore studied enemy movements. She noticed a pattern. The Zorath Prime followed supply routes expecting easy travel through space that belonged to the Empire. It never expected ambushes. Hayes saw his chance. He led the Wolverine deep into a field of floating rocks and dust, the remains of a planet torn apart long ago. Paul Brooks and his team rigged old mining charges left behind by colonists. Lisa Carter sent out fake signals, making it seem like the Wolverine was hiding far away. The trap was set. The Zorath Prime arrived proud and unafraid. It moved slowly through the asteroid field, scanning, searching. Then suddenly Lisa picked up a message. "We see you," the enemy said. "You cannot hide." Hayes smiled. "Oh, we're not hiding," he said. "We're waiting." With a single command, Paul triggered the explosives. Dozens of asteroids exploded at once, sending deadly shards flying in all directions. The Zorath Prime tried to move, but it was too big, too slow. Metal tore through its hull. Engines failed. Lights blinked out. Before it could send a distress call, the Wolverine struck. Plasma fire burned deep into the enemy's core. Within minutes, the mighty warship was nothing more than a burning wreck, spinning silently into the void. Hayes didn't wait for thanks or praise. He ordered the Wolverine to jump away before more enemies could arrive. But the message had already been sent. Across the galaxy, rebel groups watched the broadcast of the Zorath Prime's destruction. Some laughed, some cried. Most prepared for war. The Wolverine was no longer just a ship. It was a revolution, and the Virexians were starting to understand. This was not going to be as easy as they thought. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, but surely. After the destruction of the Zorath Prime DEO, the Virexians could no longer pretend this was just a small problem to be crushed. They had lost ships before, yes, but never like this. Never to a single human warship that kept slipping through their fingers. And now, more humans were fighting back. Small groups at first. Lone freighters ambushing patrols. Old cargo ships turned into raiders. Even scientists on distant stations sending secrets to the Wolverine. Soon, entire systems began to resist. What once looked like scattered noise started to sound like war. Commander Hayes knew they couldn't win alone. So he reached out. He sent messages across enemy lines, offering protection, weapons, training, not just to humans, but to anyone who had suffered under the Virexians, former prisoners, escaped slaves, rebel fighters. They all answered. In a hidden base inside a hollowed-out moon, people from different worlds met for the first time as allies. Humans stood beside beings they had never seen before. Some had 4 arms, some spoke without words, some didn't even breathe air, but they all wanted the same thing. Freedom. Lieutenant Karen Moore helped organize the new forces. She taught them how to move unseen, how to strike fast, and most importantly, how to work together. Paul Brooks worked day and night to upgrade, captured ships, turning broken machines into weapons of war. Lisa Carter became the voice between the groups, translating languages, sharing news, keeping hope alive. They called themselves the Free Fleet. It wasn't one big navy, it was many small ones working as one. Each group kept its own leader, its own way of fighting. But when the Wolverine called, they answered, and they hit hard. They struck supply lines, freed prisoners, destroyed outposts. Every victory made more join. Every message sent across space made the Empire weaker. The Virexians tried to stop it. They sent more ships, more soldiers, more spies. But the rebels were faster, smarter, hungrier. Then came the biggest blow yet. A prison world, a place where the Virexians kept those who dared to fight. Thousands lived and died there, locked away, forgotten. Not anymore. With the Wolverine leading the charge, the Free Fleet broke through the planet's defenses. Battles raged in the sky and on the ground. But in the end, the gates opened, and the prisoners walked free. Some joined the fight. Others just stared at the stars, finally seeing them with their own eyes. Hayes watched it all from the bridge. This was no longer about survival. This was about winning. The Virexians had lost ships, They had lost soldiers. They had even lost entire outposts. But they had never lost a war. Now for the first time they were losing. The Free Fleet grew stronger every day. More worlds rose up. More ships joined the fight. And at the heart of it all was the Wolverine, moving like lightning, striking where the enemy least expected. But war has a price. Commander Hayes knew the Virexians would not keep losing. They would change their plan. They would go straight to the source, and that source was Earth. It happened fast. One moment, the skies over Earth were clear. The next, a massive alien fleet dropped from warp, dark and terrible. Hundreds of ships, bigger than anything the humans had ever seen. They didn't ask for surrender. They just began to fire. Cities burned. Space stations fell. Human ships rushed to defend their home. And the Wolverine was still far away. Hayes pushed the ship past its limits. He and his crew hadn't slept in hours. Every second mattered. They couldn't let Earth fall. When they arrived, the battle was already raging. Space around the planet was filled with fire and broken ships. The human defense line was holding, but barely. The Wolverine dove into the chaos, weapons blazing. Target. Their command ship, Hayes ordered. Lieutenant Karen Moore lined up the shot. Paul Brooks rerouted every bit of power to weapons and shields. Lisa Carter sent messages to the other human ships, coordinating attacks, giving orders, keeping everyone together. The Wolverine led a charge straight at the enemy's heart. They took heavy damage. Engines flickered. Hull cracked. But they kept moving. Then came the final move. Hayes saw the weakness. The enemy thought they had won. They were too close to each other, packed together like a wall. He made the call. Paul, overload the rear reactors. Now, everyone understood what that meant. It was a one-way strike. They flew straight into the enemy fleet, drawing fire, getting closer and closer. Then, as the Wolverine pulled away at the last second, the overloaded reactors exploded, taking half the enemy command with them. The rest of the human fleet surged forward. The tide turned. After hours of fighting, the Virexians pulled back. Their attack had failed. Earth was still standing. But so many had fallen. As the smoke cleared, Hayes looked out at the stars. This wasn't over. But humanity had proven something. They would not be beaten. The Virexians had lost too much to keep fighting. After the failed attack on Earth, their forces began to fall apart. Leaders argued. Some wanted peace. Others wanted revenge. But the truth was clear. They could not win. For the first time in centuries, the Virexian ascendancy offered a ceasefire. Commander Hayes did not trust them, but he knew peace had to start somewhere. So he agreed to talk, not just for humans, but for all the species that had suffered under the Empire's rule. On a neutral space station far from any war, representatives from the Free Fleet gathered. Humans, aliens, former slaves, rebels, all stood together. It was not perfect. Voices were raised, old wounds still hurt, but they talked, and they made a new alliance, one built on freedom, respect, and shared strength. The Wolverine became a symbol of that change. Once a single ship fighting alone, now it was the heart of something bigger. Karen Moore took command of it, leading peace missions and protecting newly freed worlds. Paul Brooks helped rebuild ruined planets, sharing human and alien tech to make life better for everyone. Lisa Carter became a diplomat, helping different species understand each other one word at a time. As for Hayes, he stepped back. He had done what he came to do. He had shown that humans would not bow, that they would fight, yes, but also build. He stood on a quiet observation deck, looking out at Earth from orbit. It was still there, broken in places but strong, alive. Behind him, people walked with purpose. Some were human, some were not, but they all wore the same uniform, the colors of the new alliance. A young officer approached. "Sir, we're ready. For you on Mars," she said. Hayes smiled. "Tell them I'm on my way." He took one last look at the blue planet, then turned and walked away. The war was over. But the future had only just begun. And this time, humanity would not just survive. Among the stars, they would shine,